full stream ahead. You guys ready to talk about quarterback streaming options?
Let's do it.
Full stream ahead.
All right, last week we gave you 3 pretty good options that you would have certainly been able to get by with. Tyrod Taylor was Mike's stream of the week, and he had a dominating week. He was the QB4. We also had, we said you could expect 202 out of Bortles. He ended up putting that up.
Hit the button.
Oh, the garbage
Yeah.
Actually, the last 2 guys.
Yeah, both of them.
Bortles and Alex Smith.
Hit the button again.
Oh, the garbage man can.
We could have hit that for Jeremy Maclin, too. Alex Smith, when that game was going and he had 50 yards passing and no touchdowns, I didn't even go on Twitter because I just figured Jason was going to get ripped.
And yet, he finished as the QB11.
That's why there's 2 halves.
He was a #1
Or
quarterback
halves.
despite being terrible. And the reason is because it was a high-scoring game, just like Vegas said, and the yards were going to be there. He ran the ball a lot. He got the 2-point conversion, and shockingly was a quarterback 1 because he was terrible, and I think he's bad for the Kansas City Chiefs. But in fantasy, you can start these guys. Who had a better standard scoring week, Alex Smith or Peyton Manning? Alex Smith. I mean, and that's why we preached, in the draft season. When you use one of these early picks on a guy like a Peyton Manning, a Drew Brees, or even the Aaron Rodgers and Andrew Luck, you're missing out on a really good option. I mean, where Peyton was going, you could have had Latavius Murray and then started, Tyrod Taylor off of waivers, who was the #4 quarterback this week.
And we've told you about Tyrod Taylor since February.
Yeah.
No, not really. That's a joke.
Well,
that was a joke. Come on, Jason, quickly.
I didn't know.
We didn't
I didn't
say
know
that.
which month, but we said it on our sleepers before the draft.
Well, I'm making the point that there are going to be guys that emerge that you
Yes.
don't know about that are still startable. Especially, the quarterback position. Guys are putting up such big numbers. It's either garbage time or they're great in the beginning. It's just very hard to pick a really terrible Colin Kaepernick type guy. All right, Jason, since you brought us the gift that was Alex Smith's garbage time production, why don't you start us off here in our full stream ahead section? If you didn't notice, by the way, we moved this section ahead. We're putting this on Thursday and Friday. We figured it's better to put it on our waiver wire show so you can snag these guys because we want to be able to give you guys that somebody might compete with on waivers. So it's probably a better decision to move it forward. Jason, who's your guy?
So my guy this week is the Red Rocket. He is still owned in less than 40% of leagues. He's 39% owned. Andy Dalton. Andy Dalton has put up enormous points on the year so far this year, and his matchup coming up this week is the matchup we just saw Aaron Rodgers destroy, the Kansas City Chiefs. The secondary of the Kansas City Chiefs looks very beatable right now, and the weapons of Andy Dalton, A.J. Green's looking good, Marvin Jones, Tyler Eifert, the weapons are there to put up points. So Andy Dalton is my stream of the week.
All right, Mike, who's yours?
We're back to the well. T-Mobile. Tyrod Taylor will be my stream until he's owned in enough leagues that he cannot be streamed anymore. Last week, 277 yards and 3 touchdowns. And this was dominant. Like if they had kept their foot completely on the pedal, then he would have had even more points because they were blowing out the Dolphins. But he takes on the Giants. He's at home. It's a similar thing with the Giants secondary. They got some guys banged up. You have to like a quarterback who's playing great and can run the ball. And he's got weapons. It's just Tyrod Taylor is my man, my homeboy.
All right, let's go ahead. I am a very big endorser of the Andy Dalton pick. He was my original kind of thought process went through Andy Dalton, so I like that pick. I went with Derek Carr.
Send in the car.
Send in the car.
Send in the car.
That's a
No. Oh, you blew it.
Yeah, sorry.
The game cannot be played.
I'm sorry. I ruined that. You were going to have our listeners guess what that was from.
Send in the car.
Derek Carr, quarterback, Oakland Raiders, going up against the 27th best fantasy defense against quarterbacks in the Chicago Bears. Now, it is in Chicago, and the Bears are not giving up piles of yardage, so you're going to have to lean on a couple touchdowns here from Derek Carr. But thus far, the Bears have not been great against the fantasy quarterback, and so I'm just playing that trend. Carr, like I said, is 2 straight weeks where he has been over 300 yards passing. He's only thrown 1 interception on the year, so he's not beating you with bad mistakes. And so I think Derek Carr is a streamable option this week against Chicago.
Amari Cooper is looking great, and Derek Carr on the year is right now a top 10 quarterback. He's number 9.
So those are our streams this week. Make sure you visit our website, thefantasyfootballers.com, if you have more questions for us. We're going to do mostly a mailbag show tomorrow, answering listener questions. So go on there, submit your question. We're going to answer as many as we can. We know that you're facing a lot of decisions right now in terms of trade offers, in terms of who to drop, who to sign, who to stay with, which guys that you can, I don't know how many tweets I get a day of people saying, do I cut bait on Lamar Miller? And they mean, do you drop the guy? Do you how many of these guys, Andrew Luck, when do I give up on him and start somebody else? I mean, the questions are all across the board, so visit the website. Make sure you also check out our fantasy community on jointhefoot.com. Get involved there. Do you guys have any parting words for our listeners?
Did anybody see Ted Thompson clapping last night during the game? They talked about him, and they panned up to a shot. I actually recorded it. I'm going to post it because I have no human being claps like this.
I can't wait to see it.
And he looks like, if I remember right, he's very straight-faced and very straight-handed clapping, and just looks
like it's his first time. Like he's just trying this out. Like I wonder what this is.
Yeah,
I've seen people do this before.
So it's I'll post that up so people can have a chuckle.
Yeah. So all right, thanks for listening, Jason. Thank you for Alex Smith and his garbage time.
Thank you, Alex. But Jamal Charles should not have got all 3 of those touchdowns from the 7.
Goodbye.
Thank you for listening to another edition of the Fantasy Footballers Podcast. Don't forget to visit us on the web at www.thefantasyfootballers.com and follow us on Twitter @TheFFBallers.